Ted Cruz goes after Soros and Obama with stunning new investigation. Senator Ted Cruz, along with a few other Republican senators, are going right for the jugular. They're launching an investigation into former President Obama's influence in overseas politics, which was done on the taxpayer's dime and through George Soros' USAID organization. These senators want Secretary of State Rex Tillerson to immediately investigate efforts by Obama administration to sway foreign elections by sending taxpayer funds to extreme and sometimes violent political activists. Free Beacon reports. The lawmakers disclosed multiple conversations with foreign diplomats who outlined active political meddling by the Obama administration's State Department, including the use of taxpayer funds to support leftist causes in Macedonia, Albania, Latin America, and Africa. A portion of the State Department funding appears to have gone to organizations supported by the controversial liberal billionaire George Soros, according to the letter, which was authored by Republican Senators Mike Lee, Utah, Jim Inhofe, Oklahoma, Tom Tillis, NC, Ted Cruz, Texas, David Perdue, Georgia, and Bill Cassidy, Law. The senators are asking Tillerson to launch a full-scale investigation into these funding efforts in order to determine how exactly the Obama administration sought to promote left-leaning causes and political parties across the globe. The latest disclosures of this activity mirror efforts by the Obama administration to send taxpayer funds to Israeli organizations that opposed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the country's last election. Political leaders from a range of nations spent months informing the lawmakers about these activities. Over the past few months, elected officials and political leaders of foreign nations have been coming to me with disappointing news and reports of U.S. activity in their respective countries, Lee said in a statement. This includes reports of diplomats playing political favorites, USAID funds supporting extreme and sometimes violent political activists, and the U.S. government working to marginalize the moderates and conservatives in leadership roles. This sort of political favoritism from our missions around the world is unacceptable and endangers our bilateral relationships, he said. Share on Facebook and Twitter if you stand with Ted Cruz. IT's official, Ben Carson just made history with his shocking new order. Liberals love a free lunch. Liberals hate working. They would rather have everything handed to them. Not anymore. Donald Trump's Department of Housing and Urban Development, under the direction of Ben Carson, is going to require people to work in order to receive free housing. In Trump's America, we aren't going to allow liberals to freeload. This has been a long time coming. After the Obama era, with all of the government benefits out there, why even bother getting a job or contributing to the economy? With all of these handouts, you'd almost have to be irrational to get a job. Fortunately, this is coming to an end. Under Trump, we are going to restore American values. We are not going to allow the radical left to eat any more free lunches. If you want luxury in America, you will need to work for it. We value hard work in America. Obama's America was very different. Obama loved handing out free stuff. Do you remember his iPhone program? He was giving iPhones to people on welfare. Those phones aren't cheap, which means we were paying for it. The left needs to get their priorities and policies straight. They honestly believe that handing out free stuff is a good idea. Liberals just don't understand the economy. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Society has to bear the costs of the unemployed and the poor. There is no way around that. This is fine to an extent, but work needs to be required for public help. An expensive phone or a nice apartment is a reward for hard work, not an entitlement. Unfortunately, the rhinos are scared to cut these entitlements. They believe their voter base would be upset. Can you believe that? It makes no sense, because Trump has shown the world that the silent majority does not want to pay for a free lunch. We need to replace these rhinos with true conservatives. True conservatives are principled. We don't abandon our convictions for a voter base. This is why we need term limits. This is why we need to drain the swamp. These career politicians are so detached. Meanwhile, the radical left and the corrupt Democrats are strategizing their next move. They are trying to shame the rhinos and the conservatives into abandoning the Trump policies. We aren't going to let that happen. The left is so lost. The liberals just don't know what to do with themselves. You can't tell because the mainstream media is ignoring actual news, like the recent Manchester bombings, in order to spin their bizarre narrative. Thank goodness we have Trump to fix our country. What do you think about this comment below? Trump just turned to the Pope Francis and said 6 words he will never forget. A lone American flag hung above the entryway to Pope Francis' Apostolic Palace in Vatican City on Wednesday as U.S. President Donald Trump arrived for the third leg of his tour of the world's great religions. Trump met Pope Francis on the 5th day of his first foreign presidential trip, after visiting the cradles of Islam and Judaism. While their discussion will remain private, the president had a brief message for Francis as he left. "I won't forget what you said. It's such an honor," he said as he shook the pontiff's hand and posed for photos in the Sala del Trinito, the second-floor little throne room. "Thank you very much. This is such a great honor," Trump was later heard saying as he and Francis sat across a desk from each other to begin their talks in his private study. The Pope presented Trump with a medal with a picture of an olive tree and told him, "It is my desire that you become an olive tree to construct peace." Trump replied, "We could use peace." He tweeted on his way to the airport, "Honor of a lifetime to meet His Holiness Pope Francis. I leave the Vatican more determined than ever to pursue peace in our world." After they emerged from their talks, Francis was grinning from ear to ear as he met other members of the first family. "What do you give him to eat?" he asked Melania Trump in Italian, referring to the president's hulking size. "Patika?" "Pratica." A delighted Melania responded, laughing. Patika is a Slovenian nut roll dessert. The Pope blessed the rosary in her hand before greeting Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and other U.S. officials. Melania followed the papal meeting with a visit to a Vatican-owned children's hospital. She told Francis, "I'm glad to visit the hospital, for the bambinos." What do you think about this comment below? Barack and Michelle's vacation just came to an abrupt end after receiving devastating news. Just because Obama is out of the White House, it doesn't mean he's finished parading around like he's the freaking king of planet Earth. Over the week, the former narcissist-in-chief and Michelle traveled for their lavish vacation in Italy, where they had to make sure that the world knew they were arriving. The royal couple conspicuously arrived in the central Italian region on Friday, where their private jet was escorted by an alarming 6 fighter jets, complete with a 13-car motorcade, that we are paying for, as they headed to a $15,000 a night private villa. But unfortunately for Obama and his American-hating wife, they just had their entire opulent vacation completely wrecked, after receiving devastating news that even their endless stacks of money will be helpless to shield them from. Throughout his 2 terms in office, Obama and Michelle lived high on the hog thanks to the American taxpayers, as they jet set around on our dime with their luxurious excursions whenever their black little hearts had half an inkling. Obama exploited his presidential position by utilizing Air Force One as his personal taxi service to fly all over the world, while racking up a colossal amount of money to the tune of almost $1 billion that the American taxpayers had to foot the bill for. But now that Obama and his snotty wife are out of office, their narcissism and contempt for the American people are now coming back to bite them in the ass in a massive way. The Judicial Watch Group just announced their plans to sue the U.S. Division of Homeland Security, after the government agency flat out refused to react to the FOIA requests they made on March 24, 2017, where the watchdog group asked for all Secret Service records relating to Barack Obama's post-administration trips that he continues to take on our dime. From Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch announced that it obtained records from the Secret Service and the Air Force in response to Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, requests that show Obama family travel cost taxpayers a grand total of $99,714,527.82. The new Obama White House era travel records show the March 2014 trip to Key Largo during spring break, where the first family stayed at the exclusive Ocean Reef Club, cost the Secret Service $247,827.50, $182,120.33 for hotels and $65,707.17 in travel expenses. The total cost of that trip with previously released $885,683 and flight costs from the Air Force is $1,133,510.50. Other documents show that Michelle Obama's February 2015 Aspen vacation cost the Secret Service a total of $64,807.41. $47,109.28 for hotels, $3,559.43 in rental cars and $14,138.70 in other travel expenses. The total cost of the trip with $57,068.80 in flight costs from previously released Air Force records is $121,876.21. Judicial Watch released documents from the Air Force concerning the 2016 to 2017 Obama family Christmas trip to Honolulu showing 17.9 hours flying at 140